You've probably heard it before. That sound, echoing from minarets 5 times a day. It's one of the most recognizable sounds in the world. But have you ever stopped to think about what it's actually saying, or what the rules are behind it? Well, today, we're going to dive into the 2 Islamic calls to prayer. The public Adhan, which is the big invitation to the community, and the Iqama, which kicks off the prayer itself. We're going to break down their meaning, their structure, and their incredible significance.
So, whether this is a sound you hear every single day, or maybe just once in a while when you're traveling, that melodic call is a public invitation. It's a call to pause, to pray, and to connect. So what's the message being broadcast to the whole world? Let's get into it.
All right, so here's our game plan. We'll start by defining what these calls actually are, then we'll explore their meaning and legal standing in Islam. We'll break down the actual words of the call, which is fascinating. We'll look at the etiquette for the person making the call, cover some special cases, and finally see how the community gets involved.
Okay, first things first, let's define the 2 distinct calls that start every prayer, the Adhan and the Iqama. They might sound kind of similar, but they actually have very different jobs.
The Adhan is the main event. It's the one you hear broadcast loudly across a city, and its main purpose, right there in the linguistic root of the word, is simply to inform. Think of it as a public service announcement that the official time for a specific prayer has just begun. It's a signal for the entire community.
So how important is this announcement really? I mean, is it just a nice tradition, or is it something more? This brings us to a really interesting debate among Islamic scholars about its legal standing.
You basically got 2 main views. On one hand, some scholars say it's a confirmed sunnah, which means it's a highly recommended practice that the Prophet Muhammad established. But on the other hand, you have the view that it's a communal obligation, a mandatory duty that the community as a whole has to fulfill.
And to show you just how serious this gets, listen to this. This powerful statement from the classical scholar Imam Muhammad shows the sheer gravity attached to the Adhan. Even if you consider it a sunnah, abandoning it is clearly not a minor thing. Not at all.
So how do we square this? Well, here's the synthesis. While it might technically fall under the category of a sunnah, it's treated with the seriousness of an obligation. And why is that? It's because the Adhan is considered a fundamental public symbol, a sha'air of Islam. To just stop doing it would be like erasing a core public feature of the faith.
Now that we understand why it's so important, let's get to the good stuff. What are the actual words being said? Let's break down the powerful phrases of the Adhan.
It's really beautiful when you break it down. The call begins and ends by affirming God's greatness. Then, in the middle, it contains the core testimonies of the faith. And after that, it shifts to a direct invitation to all of us. Hasten to the prayer. Hasten to success. It so perfectly links the act of praying with achieving ultimate success in life.
Now, what about the Iqama? That's the second call. The one made right before the prayer actually begins inside the mosque. It's almost a mirror image of the Adhan, but with one crucial addition. As you can see, right after the call to success, it adds Qad qamat is-salah. The prayer has begun. This is it. This is the final signal that it's time to start.
The person who performs the call is known as the muezzin. And it's not just about having a great voice. There's a whole set of rules and etiquette that governs how the call is delivered. It really turns it into an art form of reverence and impact.
So the muezzin faces the direction of prayer, they're in a state of ritual purity, and they deliver the azan slowly and clearly, a style called tartil. The Iqama, on the other hand, is recited quickly, or hadr, because it's just for the people who are already there. Now, I want to zoom in on 2 of these points because the reasons behind them are just fascinating.
First up, placing the index fingers in the ears. You've definitely seen this, right? It's such an iconic image of the muezzin. Is it just a tradition, or is there a practical reason for it? Well, the reason, according to the sources, is super practical. It actually makes your voice louder and more resonant. It's like a natural amplification technique. It helps the muezzin hear their own pitch and project their voice further, which was absolutely crucial, especially back in the day before microphones. The second key action is the turning of the head. During those phrases, hasten to the prayer and hasten to success, the muezzin turns their head to the right and then to the left.
And this is so cool. This action marks a shift in audience. The beginning of the Adhan, all the parts about God's greatness and the testimony of faith, that's directed towards God. But the Hayya Allah phrases, that's a direct invitation to the community. So by turning right and left, the muezzin is symbolically and practically broadcasting that invitation to everyone everywhere.
Okay, so while the call to prayer is remarkably consistent, there are a few special cases to know about, particularly when it comes to the dawn prayer. This special edition has a name, the Tawweeb. In the Adhan for the Fajr, or dawn prayer, the muezzin adds the phrase, "Prayer is better than sleep." It's this direct, beautiful acknowledgement of how hard it is to wake up, while gently reminding everyone of the huge reward for doing so. And here are a few other key rules. The Adhan can't be called early. Its whole purpose is to signal the start of the prayer time. Also, if you miss a prayer and need to make it up later, you should still perform the Adhan and Iqama for it. And you know that famous story about the pre-dawn call by Bilal, one of the Prophet's companions? The sources clarify that it wasn't actually for the prayer itself, but to wake people up for their pre-fasting meal during Ramadan.
Finally, how does the community respond? Once people have gathered in the mosque, the muezzin gives that second call, the Iqama, and it contains very specific cues for the congregation to follow.
The cues are super precise. During the Iqama, when the muezzin says hastin to the prayer, that's the signal for everyone to stand up and form their lines. Then, at that final decisive phrase, Qad qamat as-salah, or the prayer has begun, the imam starts the prayer. It's this amazing, synchronized act, all triggered by the words of the call.
So, as you can see, the Adhan is so much more than just a timetable. It's a public declaration of faith, it's a trigger for a sacred act of worship, and it's an art form. Which leaves us with this final thought. When a sound is woven this deeply into the fabric of a community, what does it really signify about that community's identity and its most fundamental values?